Well, cold Arctic air is now starting to filter down over the British Isles, and we've got multiple warnings for snow and ice issued by the Met Office for the next few days. Thanks for clicking on to the Monday edition of Vogan's European Outlook. Area of low pressure out over the North Sea at the moment is drifting south. We've got some pretty significant amounts of snow potential, especially with elevation across the far north of Scotland, with frequent blustery snow showers rattling in from a northerly direction. Now, this is off the GFS, the latest run of the GFS, and you can see here as we progress through the course of today, that area of low pressure starts to drift towards Denmark, deepening as it does so. The colder air continues to drive south, and it's as we see this frontal system move into the far south of England, we could actually see a covering of snow across some parts of southern England between South Wales and Greater London through the M4 corridor. We could see some accumulating snow here. You can see that as we move into the time frame during early tomorrow morning, you can see here the precipitation is starting to turn over to snow as the colder air digs further south on the backside of that cold front. Of course, this frontal system marks the difference between relatively milder and Arctic air. All the while, through the rest of today and through the next couple of days, we're going to see these showers filtering in from a northerly direction. So snow even down to sea level. I have been seeing wintry showers here at the house today. I'm only about, I think about 25, 30 feet above sea level here, and there's been off and on snow showers. The wind is rather nippy out there, and it, of course, is all very much expected. So that is the next, 12 to 18 hours or so. But it's as we progress into the course of tomorrow, the second half of tomorrow, and into early Wednesday, we're keeping our eyes on a feature. So very, very cold conditions across the board. Hard frost, even in towns and cities, but away from towns and cities, we could be talking about -10 in parts of southern Scotland or the north of England during the overnight tonight. And that is potentially the first night in a run of nights that will go potentially below -10, especially across the Highlands. I think while we could be talking about accumulating snow across southern portions of the UK on early Wednesday morning, we could be talking about double digits below freezing across Highland Glens of Scotland. So very cold across the north, snow potential across the south, and you can see that here. This that boundary here separating the two areas of air mass here, producing snow through the Isle of Wight and along the Dorset, Hampshire coast here. We could be talking about some snow, not necessarily lion snow, but certainly snow in the air anyway. Very, very cold, of course, across the northern half of the British Isles, as you can see here underneath an area of high pressure. So light winds, clear skies, very cold, dry air in place, and indeed snow-covered ground will allow the temperatures to drop into potentially the teens below freezing. I think this week, I think it is very possible actually. Then, as we progress towards the second half of Wednesday, we're looking at a system coming in. Exactly where this feature tracks is going to be critical. Of course, it's going to be mainly on the east-north side of the system where we're going to see snowfall. We're likely to see rain on the southern flank and the southwestern flank as milder air gets pulled in. But we could be talking about a few centimeters even down to low levels across parts of southern England into the Midlands during the course of Wednesday here. Then there's an area of low pressure. This is potentially the introducer to milder conditions for a period of time. Exactly how far north this gets will depend on how much milder we get in and encompass in a broader area of the UK, or it could stay a little bit further south, which I think it will. You can see here that there's very heavy snow breaking out across northern England and across a large swathe of Scotland, as you can see here. This is into the early portion of Friday. And then quite a messy picture here. As that system deepens, we could see some gales around the perimeter of this area of low pressure. Heavy rainfall, potential embedded thunder and lightning within it. And also we could be talking about a significant snow event across possibly as far south as northern England, but in the southern Scotland, the central belt and the Highlands, we could see significant amounts of snow. Now, the centre of that low, according to the latest run of the GFS, stays through the central belt, meaning that we're going to stay in the cold air across northern portions of Scotland to the north of the M8 corridor, I think. And then that system exits, and colder air re-digs back in again on the backside of that low, and then we're back into the legacy of snow showers rattling in from the north. So this, of course, by the time we reach the weekend, we've got more systems coming in from the west. High pressure ahead of that means we can be talking about more double digits, teens below freezing during the overnight period. More snow across the northern half of the UK, and then more cold digging in the wake of these areas of low pressure. So it looks as if the northern half of the British Isles never gets out of the cold air, really, according to the latest run of the GFS. Let's have a look at the snow projections here and play it through the loop, and you can see exactly what takes place here. So the heavy snow showers rattling in through the course of today, mounting to accumulating snow across, particularly above 150 meters or so. Then, as that frontal system digs all the way down to the south, we're seeing light accumulations potentially over high parts of the far south of England. And then it's as we progress towards the second half of Wednesday into Thursday, we've got accumulating snow for parts of Wales, the Midlands, and up through England and Scotland. Now, this is when we get the main feature that we looked at just a second ago here moving in. We could have a fairly widespread amount of snowfall stretching anywhere from just north of Birmingham all the way right up to the north coast of Scotland here. And then, of course, with Scotland not getting out of that cold air, the snow continues to pile up, which of course is welcome news for the ski resorts, for example, that have missed out quite significantly in the last while. Look at this here. By the time we reach early next week, we're still looking at a significant amount of snow covering the ground across the northern half of the UK, but not also the central portion of England into the south, also seeing accumulating snow as per the latest run of the GFS. And temperatures, we are talking about some very chilly nights indeed. We haven't seen anything like that during the course of February, where of course it was very mild. I think tonight is possible -8 to -10, somewhere within southern Scotland, northern England. I think it's more during the course of Wednesday morning, Thursday morning, Friday morning, possibly Saturday morning, Sunday morning. We could be talking about double digits below freezing across the north. But again, all dependent on those systems and how far north the centre gets. The centre almost is the boundary between milder and colder. To the north of the centre remains cold. To the south of the centre, you're pulling in mild ocean air. So this is during Wednesday morning. You can see a -10 near Aviemore. The following morning here, so this is of course Thursday morning. You see another -10 appearing. Then, of course, you get potentially a little bit less cold, possibly on Friday with that system and moisture moving in right enough. So we may not have it then. But look at Saturday morning. We've got more cold. Sunday morning looks very cool. Look at that there, -10, -11, -12. And even into Monday morning, the GFS has -15, -14 across much of Scotland with a deep area of snow cover across this northern half of the British Isles here. So we'll wait and see what happens. Is it overdoing it? Possibly. Let's have a look at the ECMWF for the same time frame, and then I'll show you the Met Office. The Met Office warnings. So there's that area of low pressure drifting south and east towards Denmark through the course of today. Plenty of wintry showers rattling in on that northerly wind. Keeping our eyes on the frontal system as that it's actually an area of low pressure. I was saying it was a frontal system. It kind of is, but there's like an area of low pressure that develops along that frontal boundary. And of course, it's as that cold air engages with that, we could see wintry accumulations across the far south. This is in the early Wednesday morning. There's that system riding to the south of the British Isles, bringing potentially accumulating snow. Same again later in the day on Wednesday. All the while, clear, cold, bitterly cold across the far north of the UK. Then here's that system coming in from the west. Could see some significant accumulation across parts of Ireland, Northern Ireland, Wales, England, Northern England, and then southern and central Scotland. And you see here that area of low pressure deepens, and we could see some very significant amounts of snow, troublesome conditions in areas like the road network, i.e., the north portion of the M6, the M74 through the M8 corridor, the M9, the M90. Could see some trouble. A9 as well could see some trouble with accumulating snow, possible blizzard conditions, because we've got quite a squeeze in the isobars as well, so heavy strong winds as well as the heavy snow. This is us moving from into the weekend now. Planked that area of high pressure centered right over the Highlands. I actually think the coldest nights could be the upcoming weekend, by the way. Then, as we progress through into the weekend itself, we've got that system moving through. But notice here that the centre, as compared to the GFS, is actually very far north. So therefore, we're actually pulling in milder air further north over the British Isles. Let's have a look at the 850 temperatures actually, and you can see exactly what's taking place. So let's go back to the current time frame. As we progress through the course of the day, that area of low pressure moving into Denmark is the opening to very cold air. You can see here the -10 isotherm crossing down into the central portion of Scotland, or the central Highlands at least anyway. So very cold air aloft. We're likely to be seeing Cairngorm Summit, for example, Moor near Fort William, possibly registering a -10 air temperature with this, and it's just simply the cold air in the mid levels of the atmosphere. Of course, with March sunshine at this time of year, without any sun and some relatively light winds further south, you're still going to see a recovery in the temperature. But I think further north, with the stronger wind and the frequent snow showers, the temperatures are going to struggle to get much above the freezing mark. But we're going to see, of course, the temperatures drop significantly during the overnight period. Early or late Wednesday morning, according to the ECMWF, you can see here that we have got milder from Cornwall all the way down into Kent. So right along that south coast, you're right on that boundary level. But further north, between Cardiff and London, you're talking about colder air, so snowfall here. But where we've got the greens, you can see that we're likely to see rainfall. Now, if we continue to play through the loop here, the cold air remains in place across the north of the of England and southern and central Scotland with this system. We've got multiple systems moving through actually, but this system passing through on Friday, like the GFS, has it further south, so the cold remains in the north. We've got another surge of very cold air coming down, if you notice here, during the early portion of Saturday morning. Then it's that system tracking further north. Much more the UK gets in on the mild conditions, if you notice here, and then it looks as if as that another feature moves from west to east, we're back into the colder air once again. And I think any kind of intrusion of mild Atlantic air coming north is short-lived. It's going to be replaced by a resurgence of cold Arctic air coming down from the north, and this is the response that the southern stratospheric warming does, is pushing all the cold air south deep into the mid latitudes, forces the storm track further south, so these areas of low pressure get deflected further south. And I think with a lot more cold air now within the pattern, then the cold air continues to win back, and I think that's going to continue through at least the first 18 days of March, and then that means that it would take a heck of a warm surge towards the end of the month to lift that anomaly back above average. So I think, we're pretty firmly looking at a colder than average March across the British Isles, across Ireland, with this type of scenario here overall. And real quick before I run out of time, as per usual, this is the warnings over the British Isles here. So yellow warning quite widespread. North down the eastern side of Scotland and England. Southern portions of the British Isles, we've got a yellow warning in place as well. We've got there's that system coming through, frontal system. We've got a low developing along that. Relatively mild still across the far south today. Then we've got a yellow warning for snow across the south late Monday into Tuesday. Continue to have these snow showers filtering down from the north. Northern Ireland's in a yellow warning as well. So that's it. Ran out of time. Have a great day. Subscribe if you haven't already done so.